nothing different, whatever. But in the middle of the night, I had these horrific nightmares, and I can feel my physical body in the bed sweating. I was sweating because it was very, very horrific nightmares, and I was trying to leave the dream. My consciousness woke up, I left the dream, but my body could not move. Then what happened was, even though my eyes are closed and I could not move, I knew I could see, my spirit could see a shadowy figure, a shadow, my bedroom is dark. This figure is darker than pitch black. So my spirit can see it, and I know where it is. It's in the corner of my room. Then I called out, I started praying because I was like, what the heck is that? And then it left. The second time that happened, I don't think it was the next night. I think it was like a few weeks later. It happened again. And the same situation played out. But what happened was, and this is where I think people kind of get stuck with it. How can I word this? Even though those situations were extremely terrifying and scary for me, because all of a sudden I could not even control my body. I was pinned. It felt like there was pressure on my body, almost pinning me down, and I couldn't move. And there was fear. There was so much fear. It was like, so I told you, like, even though my eyes were not open, I could see there was a shadowy figure in the corner. The second time, that figure was right next to my bed on the left. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't see. I couldn't move anything, but I knew where they were in the room. And that has happened to some people. Some people don't even have that happen. Sometimes they just can't move. So I met that situation instead, like, I'm a fighter. So I meet that situation by fighting back. Because when an attack happens, you lose ground, because they're trying to push you this way to be afraid. Fear, partnering with fear, like, I don't want to go to sleep anymore. I don't want to sleep in my room. I need to go sleep in the lounge room. And so when you make actions, you partner with that fear, you're responding to fear, it then strengthens the cycle. It forms what I call a closed loop cycle. So I'm going to draw a circle here. It creates a closed loop cycle, okay, where this incident happened here. The incident happened here, and now I'm starting to respond. I don't want to sleep in my bedroom. I don't want to go to sleep at night. I stay awake at night. I'm really scared. I'm sweating. I get tired during the day, and then I have to take naps during the day, and then I can't go to work, so I have to work different hours. And then my whole life has completely changed. I'm not saying it did, but I'm saying it perpetuates a cycle, and it's a closed loop. So what do I need to do to stop these attacks happening? Because that's spiritual warfare. I need to break the cycle. So instead of keep going in that direction, I go, no, I will not respond in fear. I'll go back this direction. I will meet it back here. So it does not create a loop. And that's called contrary action. So there was things I was doing, and back then I had a mentor, and she was helping me through it, because even my mum and dad were like, I think it's the movies you're watching, and I don't even watch scary movies. So nobody understood what was going on at that time. Okay, so sleep paralysis is a spiritual attack. It's spiritual warfare. To answer the question shortly, there's a lot of adults in my family who are very emotionally abusive to their kids and loved ones, and have completely different public persona that's likable. What type of dark spirits attach to people that go through trauma, especially childhood trauma? Hey, user called Beauty. That's a really big question. Okay, so going back to this diagram. The soul, and I hope you're still on here, Beauty, to hear this. The soul here, okay? Your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. So what you think, your logic, your desires, and how you feel, your feelings. When there's been trauma in the soul, it opens up it's like a chink in the armor. It opens up an opening there, especially if the trauma is continual, there's no healing, and you're in a situation where you're being you're being abused by parents. So like if you're the emotional scapegoat and you're getting emotionally dumped on all the time, or if mum and dad are controlling, manipulative because they're super insecure and it's been a pattern that's happening right down the bloodline, right? That's why I talk about generational curses, and I talk about clearing your bloodline. And that's a big topic. I can talk about that later as well. So your soul, your mind, will, and emotions are being damaged. Your spirit is not being damaged. Your spirit is whole, healed, and complete. Your spirit is already preloaded with all the information. And then your soul is where there's blockages. Because, and I explained before here, the water bottle, your soul is the bottleneck. The water is your spirit. If you have the truest expression of your spirit in day-to-day life, it's like this, right? The water must pass through the bottleneck, your mind, will, and emotions, to have a true expression. If there are blockages, there's trauma. It's like putting big rocks in the water bottle, and you're trying to express yourself. If there's been damage to the emotions, there's been damage to like who you are, like your identity, you're in all of that in the soul area, your spirit can't have its truest expression through your decisions, behaviors, mindsets, patterns, beliefs. So then what happens is your frequency drops. And we talked about frequency before a bit earlier. So your vibration, because all matter in science is vibrating, we're all vibrating on a certain frequency. The vibrations are measurable in hertz. And I told some people on here before about sound meters. When I used to be doing noise measurement tests, we'd have the sound meter. It measures the vibrations, the frequency. So your frequency, your personal frequency, is measurable. Now, if there's been trauma and then it builds up patterns because you're responding to the trauma, and I'll just pull out an example. This is not you or anyone on the live. I'm just pulling out an example. Dad has been absent from the family. Mum has had to step up to take on the masculine role as well as the feminine role. And then she then gets triggered to be in her masculine state instead of being in her feminine state, which is supporter, nurturer, all that. And she becomes very controlling because it's out of insecurity. The children then feel like they're being manipulated, controlled. So then there's a breaking of trust. The young son will then feel like he's the emotional scapegoat and being emotionally abused because mum doesn't have a man to be able to rely on emotionally. So then she dumps on the boy because he's the other masculine that's in the family. The daughter then has to step up and become a leader and a supporter because she's the oldest daughter, oldest sibling in the family. So then she gets traumatized because she doesn't know what masculine should be. Then she starts to date guys who are weak-natured because she's very dominant and independent, because she's had to be dominant and independent to remain safe, to keep safe, because it's all about safety and security. So then she's dating a guy. Then what happens is, if she keeps going down the path of control, manipulation, all that, it's like a light. A beacon in the spirit is like, oh, that frequency is going to, it's like this happening in the spiritual realm. That is like a frequency. It's like, hello, I'm open. Controlling kind of spirits and spirits that want their manifestation on that frequency of control and manipulation. I am available. Come. Okay. Oops. So that's what that means. I'm then operating at that frequency. And that's why it attracts certain types of spirits, because they are that same frequency. Our English translation is that spirit is control. Our English translation is that spirit is manipulative, or a Jezebel spirit or something like that. But it purely is operating on that frequency. And so then what happens is, when that person has soul healing and soul alignment, so when we get people in sessions and then we go back and we go all the way back to the root, and the root is a mother wound, a father wound. We go back there, that gets healed and sealed, realigned. They're no longer at that frequency. their frequency rises back up to where it should be. And then those spirits leave because that person is no longer operating on that frequency anymore. They're not attractive to that spirit.